space program possibly has regular traffic to the Moon, Mars, and around the solar system, have you or your remote viewers ever found evidence of Earth humans living on or traveling among the solar system?
In the future, of course. And we've spent a lot of time looking at that too. In fact, one of the largest moon in Saturn that we knew there were seas and at least one form of life in the seas of Saturn. And we know there's microbial life on Mars as well. But in terms of humans, there is a secret program, but having been at celestial levels of intelligence, I can't talk about too many of those things. I'll use one example though. You'll notice that the early Clementine mission was a NASA mission, the one to map the surface of the moon 100%.
Right.
But all of a sudden, the Clementine images went away, most of them, and it became an Air Force project. Why is that?
Yes, well, I was curious. A lot of people think that we've actually had a second space program going since the 1960s, or possibly...
Oh, we do. Yes, we have, of course. I can't talk much about that, but yes, and the Air Force runs that. But it doesn't involve trips to Mars, and it doesn't involve too much manned activity. That's too expensive, and you can't hide those things effectively. You could never hide a manned mission because it's too difficult to do.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hello, Happy Man. You got a question for Ed?
Yes, I do. Hello, Ed.
Hi, I'm sipping tea, sorry.
That's fine. You've talked about Sasquatch quite a little. You've stated that he's not from this planet, and they have an interesting technology to come and go. Could you explain the Sasquatch mode of travel to and from this planet?
We don't understand the technology. We know something more about Sasquatch that we discovered, and it's quite amazing. Now, I haven't seen the movie Avatar. People tell me about it, and I know people told me about it. I haven't seen the movie. I'll get around to seeing it one of these days. But that's what these Sasquatches are. They're avatars. The way they look is the way they really look on their home planet. And but when they're down here, they're essentially a mass projection of themselves, and they're essentially tourists for all intents and purposes. And they're just like a telerobotics. You can walk that robot under the water. That's why these things have been seen walking through rivers, underwater, bouncing up and down over trees and all of that. They're avatars. They're duplicates of the real thing that is on their home planet. The technology they use to do this is beyond me. We can sketch and describe as best as possible some of the devices. They're very interesting. They look like capacitor plates that are lined up in space, and somehow that's the part of the apparatus, if you will, that allows for this to happen. But as far as the technology is concerned, you got me. I have no idea.
Okay. That's very interesting. Do you have any new revelations on why they come here?
No, it appears they're just sightseers. That we've seen, but they're there with mother and daughter, and all, they're just sightseeing. They're experiencing this world. Their world is very frigid. It's very cold, very bleak. A lot of ice. Which you might imagine to be the case. And we're not sure about the gas makeup of the world, the atmosphere. We don't know if it's similar to ours or not. We haven't checked that out, but the world itself is very icy. And they're very advanced technologically in terms of what we perceive as science and technology. They're quite advanced, as you might guess.
Thank you for that.
And we'll never be able to shoot one. You're not gonna bag one.
I won't try.
Thanks, Happy Man. It's an amazing world out there, and if only the kill shot wasn't coming, Ed Dames could probably make a book called Penetration 2. The next question is from Lenny.
Hi, Ed. This question is from Party Pup. It's kind of a two-pronged question. What do you see as the inciting factor that will trigger a solar kill shot or a series of solar kill shots? And would it be due to the climax of a solar megacycle or the presence of a foreign body in our system? And also, could you please address the incident that has been remote viewed about the space shuttle incident?
In terms of the kill shot sequence, the beginning of it, I don't know how it's initiated. I do believe, based upon my work, that it is concomitant with the end of the 11,500 megacycle. It's not an epiphenomenal event. But it does appear to be triggered, or at least catalyzed by this large passing space body, which we still think is something like a comet or a minor planet. That's why I'm very concerned about these reports of this comet that's been talked about in the press. What's the name of it?
Elenin?
Elenin, yeah. When I first saw those reports, I started to say to myself, this is getting too close for comfort. That's when I started really preparing for my family's survival. Yeah. And so I'm very, very, there's a great sense of urgency for me now every time I hear this report about this particular comet or wherever it is, because it's just too similar to what we've sketched. It's just too similar to be an anomaly, too similar to our data, and the timing is almost immaculate. So I'm very, very concerned about moving faster for myself economically, and I don't want to be an economic slave. That's why I use some of my resources for looking for gold. I'm going out on Tuesday on another gold retrieval mission because I don't want to be I don't want to be an economic slave.
Do you use dowsing for that?
No, I use remote viewing.
I know, but I mean, in addition, you know.
No, why should I use dowsing? It's an inferior tool compared to what I'm doing now. And I go with a winning team. So I can pinpoint either caches of stolen loot that are still out there, or ore bodies, or nugget fields, whatever I'm interested in, using remote viewing.
I think that is really cool. I want to just go back and just kind of ask you, the killer shots and the asteroid possible or foreign body, you were mentioned something in one of your talks about 30 to 40 degrees latitude, or 40 to 50 degrees latitude. Is that where you see the killer shot hitting? No,
quite the outverse.
Yeah.
When we look at sanctuaries for people, I still do occasional contracts for people looking for their own personal sanctuaries, interesting sanctuaries, because it's the person's own unconscious connected with the global mind, pointing out to them where they should go, their optimum Earth location. But it also takes into consideration the person's personality. So although there are a number of sanctuary locations globally, and I'll qualify that momentarily, the sanctuary locations for people are, myself for example, I don't like cold weather. So my particular sanctuary, and I love the ocean, clean oceans. So my particular sanctuary happens to be, it's in another country, happens to be in an area that's quite beautiful on a coast. The high latitudes in the northern hemisphere, especially those latitudes across where you've seen traditionally crop circles, not the crop circles laid out by college students, but the other ones. Those zones appear to be survival latitudes. We have found, unfortunately, very very few sanctuaries in the Earth's southern hemisphere. We have some ideas about why they might be, because of what season we're in when these kill shots happen. But all the sanctuary locations predominantly are in the northern hemisphere, and way above the equator. Not that much above, but quite a bit above the equator. 34 degrees, upwards of 50 degrees. Across many continents, except Asia for some reason. We think the reason that is because it's not that there aren't survival zones there. We think there are too many people per square kilometer in Asia, and that there's really no room for a sanctuary because there won't be enough water and food to support it. That's the reason we think Asia has so few sanctuary zones, if any.
Wow, that's really interesting. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Lenny. And interestingly, Paul Smith, another remote viewer, actually does like dowsing, so each to his own, I guess. Ed, in regards to the solar kill shot, it's a series of obviously massive solar flares which take down all electrical infrastructure, and that people may need to be underground and have access to fresh sources of water to survive. Is there anything else you can elaborate on how it plays out based on your remote viewing sessions? A number of flares which slowly hole out the magnetosphere so that we don't have a magnetosphere after a while? Does the proton burst flip the Earth's magnetic field? Will polar ice cap melts? Obviously volcanoes will probably erupt. Can you give us more information, bearing in mind that we know that you've got a new DVD coming out on the solar kill shot as well?
I just don't have any more information. The complexity of the problem, in terms of the complexity is so great. The permutations involved in just the adiabatic heating alone of the atmosphere, not to mention all the the rest of the geophysics, are so complex. There's nothing more I can do. That's why our attention is on individual sanctuaries from this, because by looking at the sanctuaries, we can tell where survival zones are by looking at individual sanctuaries, seeing the patterns and extrapolating from that. We can see how the ranges of how big this event is going to be, and it's going to be huge, just huge, because these sanctuary locations are all they're concentrated and almost in many cases far inland. I mean, North American coast, both the western and the eastern coast. Close to the coast, there are no sanctuary locations along either coast. They're all inland, in Appalachia or near the Rocky Mountains, really where solid mountains are. Alberta, Saskatchewan, nothing in British Columbia, which surprised me.
So I guess
I can't go too much more into it except to say that it's going to be really hairy, and you've got to be able to know where to go when you can't fill your car up with gas because the pumps aren't working. You can't get out of the cities if you're in one, and that's going to be deadly for many people. You need to know where to go because you'll have some time. You'll have some time to go to and to a sanctuary location. And get there for most people. But if you don't know where to go, even if you can go somewhere when this starts to happen, you're still screwed, especially if you're in cities like Oakland, California, or where barbaric situations will occur almost immediately.
So I guess the technique is not to try to remote view the kill shot itself, but remote view life after the kill shot. Now, what is life after the kill shot? I guess you said the barter economy, no electricity, human population very low. Is that what you're saying?
And Mad Max scenario at first, but a lot of humans will die because of dehydration and starvation. That will be generally the number one killer because the water will evaporate. I mean, water supplies will go. They'll shift. Aquifers will shift also because there'll be tectonic shifts. We even think there's a slight pole shift, a geophysical pole shift as well. I'm not talking about simply magnetic pole. So most of the deaths will be in metropolitan areas from just chaos, from rioting. The predominant deaths, though, will be from dehydration and starvation, particularly in what we recognize today as the third world countries that are already suffering from this. And one slight change will do it for them. Again, the southern hemisphere is not the place to be when this happens.
We're speaking with Ed Dames from LearnRV.com, and we'll just go for a quick 1-minute break. Thanks, Ed. Hi, we're back on the Time Monk Radio Network, and we're speaking with Ed Dames on LearnRV.com.